Hello and welcome back to Tips and Time Savers. I'm Danny Rocks. In today's lesson, I'm going to assist one of my viewers to create a report which requires searching for specific text strings. Let's take a look at the scenario. The viewer said, I have in column A a list of all the email addresses for my customers. What I need to do is create a report where I can group all the clients who use Hotmail, group all the clients who use MSN.com, etc. So immediately I thought of two tools inside Excel. I thought of text to columns, and I also said a pivot table will be a great way to create this report. Now, text to columns will break apart one text string and create as many columns as we want. In this case, we want to have two fields, one for the name, which is the text that appears to the left of the @ sign, and we want to have a second column, a second field for the text that appears after the @ sign. In this case, we're looking at the @ sign as the delimiter. We use an @ sign in every email address. So I have my labels for the new columns that I want to create. I want to use text to columns working on a copy of my original data. So I'll select it, use Control C to copy it, Control V to paste, Escape to take it off the clipboard, double click to automatically expand the column. All right, now I have the copy of the email addresses. I'm ready to use text to columns, which I find on the Data tab of the ribbon in Excel 2007, 2010, over here in Data Tools, text to columns. I talked about a delimiter. The @ sign is going to be the delimiter. It is common to every email address. Take the second step. Now you'll notice that the @ sign does not appear, but we have the ability to create our own delimiter. So I typed in the @ sign. Now watch what happens when I select other. These are the two fields, the two columns that will be created out of the one text field. Click Next and accept the defaults, and there you go. It is absolutely amazing how simple it is to break apart text without having to master the left function, without having to master the mid and the right text functions. Now, my second tool for the report, I thought of creating a pivot table. Well, first I want to insert a blank column over here. And then I want to make a copy of the original email addresses, Control C to copy it and Control V to paste it. All right, now we have separated out this data set. We're ready to create the pivot table. One cell selected, Insert tab of the ribbon, Pivot Table. I'm going to accept all the defaults to create my pivot table on a separate blank worksheet. When I select the domain field and drop it into the row labels, I have a list of all the unique values. In other words, these are the email domains. And frequently, I will use a pivot table just to do this, to filter out and give me a list of the unique values in a field. But for our report, what we want to do is we want to take the email address and then nest it as a row inside the domain. So here we have the domain and we have the email address. Now in Excel 2000, 2010, the default for pivot table reports is to see them in compact form. Let's change this to the more familiar outline form. And of course with the pivot table, we can take advantage of the collapse and expand feature. So I emailed this on to the viewer and he wrote back and said, Danny, that's great, but. Now, I always worry when somebody says but. He said, Danny, rather than seeing the domain names coming down vertically in the report, I want to see them coming across horizontally in the report. Well, again, no problem. Let's remove email. Remember, I said that I frequently use just this part of a pivot table to give me a list of the unique values. So in this case, I'm going to select it, use Control C to copy. Let's come over here to our original field. Let me hide a couple of columns to make this a lot easier to work on. Remember that I selected the values which are organized vertically, and my viewer wants to see the domain names coming across horizontally. Well, now that they're copied, I can take advantage of copy, paste, special, transpose to transform what was originally a vertical orientation of the values and paste them using transpose to come across horizontally. So here I have the domain names that I want to be able to create my report for. Now let me introduce you to the search function. Equals search and I'll use the Control-A keyboard shortcut to bring up the function arguments dialog box. Notice that there are two required arguments. Find a text string inside a larger text grouping. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to search for the position of the @ sign. So the substring, the text that I want to search for, is the @ sign. I want to find its position inside the email address. Now notice that I just typed in the @ sign, and using the function arguments dialog box, Excel automatically enclosed that inside double quotation marks. So it's going to tell me it is placed at position 6 for Helen at Hotmail. So H is position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's the @ sign in position 6. When I copy this down, you'll see that in this case the @ sign appears in position 7. Now you say, well, that might be of dubious value, but bear with me. The way I'm going to create this report is I'm going to create a mega formula by building it up with baby steps. Now what I want to do is I want to substitute not the text for the @ sign. Rather, what I want to do is I want to look for the domain name. Now remember, I'm copying this down, so before I finish this off, I want to say look for the value that is always in row 1. So I'll put a $ to freeze row 1 in place. Now I get an error message because it doesn't find AOL over here in cell E2. Copy it down all the way, and you'll see that where there is an AOL.com, it appears in position 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. The @ sign's in 5, but the beginning of what I'm looking for is in position 6. All right, now remember, what I'm going to do is I am going to nest the search function inside another function. In this case, the logical function if. Now, if requires 3 arguments. A logical test, which we already have with the search function. And then it's going to say, if the return for that logical test is true, what do you want to see? Well, I want to see the complete email address. I'm going to put a right parentheses. Now remember, I'm going to copy this formula not just down vertically in the column, but also horizontally coming across. So I want to put $ in front of each of the columns so that it will always be looking for the value in column E and returning that value in column E. Let the row become relative. Click OK. Now I still have error symbols in there, but look over here where there is an AOL account, it returns that value. Now watch what happens when I copy this over. If I've used my $ correctly, I will get the values returned where there is a Gmail account. Now what I want to do is I want to come back here to my original formula, and I want to nest these two formulas inside a new function called if-error. If-error was introduced in Excel 2007. It is an incredible formula. When you want to quickly get rid of these error symbols when they appear, if-error has 2 arguments. What value do you want to see? In other words, the result of if and search for. And if there is an error, what do you want to have appear instead of the error symbol? I'll use a comma, and I want to say I want to see nothing. So double quotation mark, space bar, double quotation mark, finish off the formula, and you see that error symbol, or that error value, disappears. I only see, if it found AOL.com, I see that returned. And copy this over, I only see the Gmail accounts. Copy it over, and I only see those values where there is a Hotmail account. Copy it over, I'll only see those values where there is an MSN. Copy it over, and I'll only see those values in my report where the domain is The Company Rocks. So there you've seen how we can use text to columns, pivot tables, the search function, the if function, and the brand new if-error function. I like to create mega formulas by building them up from the ground. Build from a baby step and nest that function inside another function inside another function. And I'll look for you in the next lesson.